Hello my lovely friends, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another super specific reading vlog. This is either going to be a very good idea, or this is going to make a lot of manga bros mad at me. Welcome to another super specific reading vlog. I've started just doing reading vlogs about specific things that I want to read, because I feel like doing that. We are going to be, in this vlog, reading Soul Eater, volumes 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is going to be a very experimental, see how this goes vlog for me, because I read volume 1 and I gave it 2 stars. It wasn't a 1-star thing, but it was... Okay, let's see if I can sum up and summarize my feelings on this manga. I want to preface this by I've been reading manga since the 2000s, and I was reading comic books and other graphic novels before then, so this is not a new thing to me. I've read both shonen and shoujo. I've got a maybe not the deepest knowledge of the particular medium, but I have a pretty broad understanding of what the stereotypes and concepts and those kinds of things. I understand the, what's the word, the standard conventions. So we're gonna have to have a conversation in this about some of the standard conventions that you see in shonen manga. If we had been going purely on my enjoyment alone, I probably would have given it a 3-star. I did not enjoy this manga. I liked a lot of it. I liked, let me rephrase that. I liked things about it, specific things. I like specific characters. I like the concept. I like the story. Although this one, part of why it got 2 stars is this first volume is a lot of prequels, and they feel very disjointed and very disorienting. There is some story structure issues that I've seen other shonen mangas do much better, and not with the awkwardness that it felt like for me as the reader when it came to the structure of how these first volumes are starting. I don't know that we either just got into the main story, or we got into got up to where the main story is going to be starting, because each of these first, I think 7, is it 7? Yeah, okay, so it's 3 prologues and then the first chapter of the main manga. While I understand to some extent why that was what the mangaka's purpose was in doing that, I don't think it was well done, and I think I've seen it done better in other mangas that I have read. It wasn't just these couple of things that I'm about to talk to that gave it that 2-star rating, but if it had just been that issue, it would have gotten 3 stars. If that had been the only issue that I had with it, was the structure of the story. So the 2 things that I really did not like. Number 1, if you couldn't tell from the cover, this one is super heavy on the objectification of women in it, and I know somebody's going to be mad at me for mentioning that, because this is a shonen and it's written for young boys, and I hear your argument. I'm going to raise you the question, is this what we want to be teaching young boys? Number 2, there are some places, and again, these all go back to the conventions of shonen manga, and it's not necessarily an issue with this manga itself, it's an issue with what is considered acceptable and expected for this particular line of comics. But there are a couple of places where one of our other teenage characters, who's a boy, is subjected to what we would consider sexual assault of a minor. And it's played off as a joke because he's a boy and it is a woman with giant tits that is doing it. That one is the one that really rubbed me wrong, because we should not be teaching young boys that it is okay for any adult to treat them like that, regardless of whether or not they think it's a good idea, regardless of whether or not they want to. In this, the main character, or the character that I'm specifically speaking of, I can't remember his name, he does kind of object and is not happy about it. To have this, seemingly a grown adult woman with sticking his face in her giant tits. I understand. I read Naruto, guys. Jiraiya was one of my favorite characters at the time. Thinking on it, maybe he should not have been. I've read quite a bit of Naruto. I've read Bleach. I've read, I've read One Piece, which, don't get me started, but that one's not even, it's just, One Piece is not for me. There's just too much. It just goes on too long. I know there's gonna be someone in the comments going, oh, okay, well, but maybe if you don't like those things, maybe you just shouldn't read shonen manga. You can't see it. My favorite manga is a shonen manga. It's Fullmetal Alchemist. I rebuke that fully in the name of Hiromu Arakawa. Just because it is the standard of the genre doesn't make it okay. Does that make sense? Just because a woman being introduced first with the focus on her body, just because the sexual assault of a minor is a standard, is something expected in shonen manga, is something that is part of like the jokes that are part of shonen. Just because those are things that have been accepted and expected for that genre doesn't mean we shouldn't change them. All of that to give you an idea of what my issues with volume 1 were. However, I have decided to continue on with it after speaking with both my brother, who has read the entire manga, and then my friend Cal's partner, Al. I asked Cal if Alex had read it, but Alex basically confirmed some of what my brother had said as well. My brother did say that Maka is one of the best developed female characters or female protagonists that you see in a shonen. He said he also mentioned that a lot of stuff is explored with a lot of nuance once you get into the series. And I can see that, and I'm interested in the concept. So in hopes that this will not be what was bothering me, and this will not be the norm for the majority of the series, or at least will get better or be addressed later on in the series. With that in mind, I am giving Soul Eater until volume 5 to decide whether or not I'm going to DNF the series or I'm going to continue forward with it, just to see how I feel about that. If some of it gets better, if, like I said, I liked the characters, I liked the concept, I don't want to give up on it, but also there are things in it that kind of seriously bother me. That's where we're starting. I wanted to start this before I picked up volume 2, and I'm now going to read volume 2. Finished volume 2. That one was definitely an improvement on volume 1. There still was stuff at the end that I was like, why do we have this unnecessary shower scene? Like, it's 3 naked women, but we have removed most of the parts that make naked women offensive. Or, not parts, but details. The details that make people mad. The things that get censored, basically. I mean, if you're gonna do it, why at least put the nipples on? Sentences I never thought I'd say. It's not, and this isn't a surprise, because this is very early in a manga series, and a lot of the time, it takes a while to get to what the really big, overarching plot is. A lot of the time, those first couple volumes seem like things that are weird and disjointed, not necessarily with a short series where the mangaka knows kind of the beginning, middle, and end, but like a lot of the time you'll see where it feels like it's not as connected as it could be, especially when we're talking about shonen. Like, you know, you look at some of the stuff that I read, a lot of the stuff at the beginning seems kind of like it could stand alone. You might have 2 or 3 that are connected, that kind of thing, but it's not like volumes and volumes of trying to solve a plot. So we haven't gotten to the main plot of the story yet, but I am liking the dynamics between some of the characters, and I do really like Maka as a main character. So obviously we're going to continue on, because like 2 volumes is not enough to judge by. I think this one we're going to give 3 stars. Again, I've seen manga series have stronger starts, but I'm not mad about this one.
Oh, one thing I want to mention, and I noticed this in volume 1 as well, there are places where, like, I don't know if it's just the writing style doesn't work, or, like, it feels like there is something that is not translating in going from whatever the original version in Japanese to the English version, just the way that certain sentences work and go. I'm like, like there are places where it just feels like we're missing part of the sentence. Does that make sense? Or we're there will be, it's very odd, and it's like some of it I do think is how specifically the writing is structured, but there are also places where I'm just like, this feels like a bad translation, and that's odd because it's like the official Shonen Jump, like it's the official manga. It's not. I'm not reading it off of Manga Fox this time, and I've read some interesting translate. It's really weird going through, because I read, when I did Full Metal Alchemist, I read most of that, I believe, on Manga Fox. I read all of that on Manga Fox. What am I saying? Because, like, you had to wait so long for the volumes to come out and all of that. So rereading it this time, when I went and started rereading it, that's a trip. It's a trip, because there are things that I missed. That's something for another time and another vlog. But, like, yeah, it feels like it's like I've gone back to reread to see if I missed something, and like the thing that I feel like I've missed, it's not on page, it's not written, and I don't know what's going on. But there are places where it's just like, this seems like we suddenly like just threw in something and skipped part of the conversation between where we were in the last panel and where we are in this panel. Like, how do these things flow? How is this a part of it? How do these things flow? Like, it's very odd. We'll see if that continues on. But that is just, has anyone else noticed that about this series in particular? Like I said, I feel like it feels like something went wrong in the translation in a few places.
Good morning. It is Sunday morning. I have tea and I have updates. Whoop. And I'm dropping my Taylor Swift coasters. It's fine. These are like the best purchase ever. I love them. Last night I did finish volumes 2 and 3 of Soul Eater. Some of the problems you heard me talk about earlier are still there, but they are not there in quite the, like, we've definitely not had the joking sexual assault happen just yet, like, in these 2 volumes, so that's nice. Still objectification of women happening, but I can overlook that, especially since it is, like, not happening as often. We are still very early in this manga, so we haven't gotten the entire, like, the full big picture storyline just yet. A lot of these are just little vignettes. We haven't quite gotten the full cohesive story, but things are much better put together and they're flowing a lot better than I feel they did in volume 1 starting here. We also are starting to have some of the things that were introduced in previous volumes carry forward further into the story and start, like, they haven't started developing yet, but like you can see the threads that are going to be leading into a bigger, like, there's a specific arc in here that we're still dealing with the aftermath of in this volume, and it's something that's really affecting our main character, and so we're still having the echoes of things that have happened previously start to make their way, ripple effects into further issues. It's a good slow build that has gradually started happening. So I'm not, like, I'm feeling much more, I don't know if it's invested in the story, but I'm feeling much more grounded now that we've gotten into volumes 2 and especially volume 3. I feel like volume 3 is where things... Why are you mowing your lawn in the hottest part of the day? I don't know why. I'm enjoying it. I'm like, it is genuinely a funny manga. In my opinion. It works with my sense of humor. It just was those few things in volume 1, so I'm really, really happy about this, that things are improving. I'm so excited. Hello, I definitely forgot to update you guys. Let's not talk about how much later this is. We're not going to talk about it, but I did end up reading volume 4 of Soul Eater several months ago. I'm not going to say too much about this just yet because I still have to read volume 5 and then we'll do a little wrap up, but like I saw kind of a return of some of my issues with volume 1 in this one, and that frustrated me a little bit, but I have heard from others that it gets, like, the things I have issues with get better as we go and are less of a thing that happens. I'm about to pick up volume 5 and hopefully finish off this whole vlog and get everything set up. Anyways, I wanted to at least give you an idea of what was going on. So far, like, I like the world here so far. I like what is going on. I like the dynamics between the characters, and the things that they are having to, like, the way the plot is progressing and all of that. I really like how all of that goes and, like, what we're building to and some of the things that we're looking at when it comes to organizations and all of that stuff. If you don't know, hi, I'm Margaret. I like it when books examine societal, organizational, cultural, those kinds of issues or I like finding parallels of that in the books I read. I do enjoy that. My brain does not turn off when I read. So I'm about to sit down. I don't remember too much from volume 4, but I think, like, it should be pretty easy to pick back up from where we are, but I have volume 4 here if I need to refresh my memory and continue on with that. I'm interested, I'm intrigued, I'm excited to see where we go and see what happens. Hello, I have finished volume 5, which means that it is time for an update on my thoughts on the series. I will say I'm going to continue reading the series because I am very interested in, like, the world and the journey that we're seeing Maka specifically go through. Like, I could care less about the other characters. Black Star just annoys me, and Kid is, like, just kind of feels like he's there just to be there. So I really don't care much beyond Maka and Soul, but I am enjoying it. So there is that. Let's talk star ratings so far. This is a solid 3-star series for me at this point. I've read shonen that like I've read them and they are my favorite thing ever. I don't think that's gonna happen like that's happening with Soul Eater, at least not from the get-go. So we gave volume 1 2 stars just because like they had there's so much going on in there. And then volumes 2 through 5 each got 3 stars. So it's improved slightly. I'm still seeing a repeat of some of the other things that I did not like in this, but I am not seeing them at quite the like level. I feel like it's a little bit more spread out, and then like this was just a whole bunch of like what was annoying me about this series as a whole. The interesting thing about this, so like this is not my first shonen manga that I have ever read. I know that some of these tropes exist in other shonen mangas. You've seen them. I don't think I've ever quite seen them at this level though, and seen them at this kind of intensity. Definitely don't, and maybe I'm misremembering stuff, but I definitely don't remember like a lot of manga where grown women were shoving teenage boys' faces into their boobs. I don't remember that when I was reading shonen. Granted, I was reading them in the early 2000s, so things might have changed. My thoughts on Volume 5 are Volume 5 was okay. It did a really good job of moving the plot forward and developing our characters a little bit more. We've got the typical kind of brash main character getting into a battle where they're way over their head, but you know they're gonna win. It's gonna be fine. I think this is one of the big confrontations that we've been working towards, which is very interesting because I was thinking that the bad guy that we're fighting here was going to be a little bit more present throughout the series. And that's not saying that can't, because we haven't gotten to the end of it, that's not saying that can't happen. It just, in this volume at least, like I think in volume like 3 and 4, she felt like a little bit more of like a low-key, behind the scenes, we will get to it big bad. But in this volume, she felt a little bit more like a mini boss. That was interesting to kind of like, I'm reassessing where I think she fits in the grand scheme of this plot and what I think like the eventual big bad is going to be. I mean, there's an option there that would just be a big yikes for everyone. Huge repercussions throughout the world that we have established here. This one did not have any sexual assaults of a minor, but it did have that weird objectification of women in this. There are places where like just the way certain characters are drawn, I just have to be like, that is not, that's not how fabric works on the human body. And I should be used to this, considering that I've dealt with comic books for like ever. But there just has been some stuff where I'm like, not even the worst offenders in DC Comics have gone that as far as our lovely mangaka goes in here. I'm still slightly confused about how like the weapons work. I'm sure we will get more of that in the rest of the series, but like, are they humans that can turn into weapons? Are they weapons that can turn into humans? It is very confusing to me how like that, because like on the one hand, I'm like, okay, but they're anthropomorphic weapons, but on the other hand, Maka's dad is a weapon. I'm like, I don't, okay. And like, are they allowed to have their own lives? Like, if Soul wanted to, could he go fall in love with someone else? Or do they have to fall in love with their Meister? I'm so very interested in like the exploration that is going to be happening there. It's also very interesting that like so far all of the gender, it's always been opposite gender pairing, at least for the good guys. I don't know what, I think it's Ragnarok's gender is. Right now, I think it's just creepy. I'm just such a sucker for like that trope where you've got two people that they're a team and they have to grow together and become stronger and they build each other up, and I love that. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite tropes. Like, I like that part about it. I really enjoy that part. I like the fact that we've got like this magical school, death school in this case. I love that. That's so much fun. Like, I'm very interested to see them learn more, like us to learn more about the world as they are learning things. I don't feel the need to like rip through these quickly like I did with some of the manga that I read back in my early 20s, but I still am intrigued and going to continue on with the series and see what happens. If you want to see me like maybe when I pick up the next 5 volumes, let me know in the description if you want a dedicated vlog to doing that. Otherwise, I might just start doing manga vlogs where I'm like reading different mangas and continuing on with some of the series that I'm wanting to continue on with, just because I enjoy it. I like it, and I'm trying to get more of it back into my life, along with, graphic novels. So that's the end of this little me trying a new manga series vlog. If you enjoyed this, I will go ahead and put up a manga wrap-up that I did from last year, where I read Spy Family, Witch Hat Atelier, Soul Eater, and then Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. I had thoughts about all of those, so I just put them all in one video rather than having the longest wrap-up in the history of wrap-ups. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That is it for now, my friends. I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!